Anine, Sego. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us this month for our Healthy School Snack series. This week, we're going to be making some homemade healthy fruit snacks. The ingredients we'll be using for this recipe are 2/3 of a cup of orange juice, 2/3 of a cup of frozen or fresh berries, 1 to 2 tablespoons of honey, and 5 tablespoons of gelatin. In addition to the ingredients I just listed, we're also going to need a small saucepan, a wooden spoon, a whisk, a blender. It can either be a small blender, a large blender, or even an immersion blender. And we're also going to need a glass dish. So go ahead, grab all of your ingredients as well as the list of additional materials, and I'll meet you back here so we can get started. Alright, so we've got everything ready, and I think we can begin. So we're going to use 2/3 of a cup of frozen mixed berries. For this recipe, you can use frozen or fresh. I just found that it was easier to use frozen because I already had a lot in my freezer. And next, we're going to add 2/3 of a cup of orange juice. So we're going to turn our heat on now to medium, and we're just going to start to stir our berries and our juice. What we want to have happen is the berries to become tender and start to soften, essentially. So now that we've got it boiling, I'm just going to use my spoon here to kind of mash those berries down a little bit, check and see how soft they've actually become. And I'll just keep working away at boiling that down. Essentially, we want it to look something like a compote, which is almost just like a berry syrup. So here we can see that the berries are starting to break down a little bit, and this is exactly what we want to have happen. We can go ahead and add in our honey. The recipe calls for 1 to 2 tablespoons of honey. My kids tend to like things a little on the sweeter side, so I'm going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons. And then we're just going to go back to stirring to make sure that that honey is completely incorporated into the mixture. What we're trying to do is actually get the fruit to dissolve quite a bit. So we'll just keep on stirring and keep on boiling it down. So we need to turn the heat off. I've actually just moved the pot right off of the heat, and now we're going to get started with adding in our gelatin. What we're going to want to do here is we're quickly going to want to whisk in our gelatin 1 tablespoon at a time. When I say whisk quickly, that's exactly what I mean, and we just want to make sure that the gelatin is completely incorporated. By sprinkling it in slowly, we're just making sure that there's no lumps that start to form. Nobody wants to have fruit snacks that have lumps in them. I think it was during this particular process that I wished that I had more than 2 hands. And then here we go with the last tablespoon. So again, that's 5 tablespoons of gelatin. So once we've got our 5 tablespoons in, we can go ahead and pour the mixture into our blender. I know, unfortunately, you're not able to see, but I'm just scraping down the sides of the pot to make sure I get all of the mixture into the blender. And then we can go ahead and blend up our mixture. Again, this is just to ensure that we've got no lumps left over. Now we're just going to pour that mixture right into our glass container or dish. This is the first time I'm actually using this particular dish. In all honesty, I'm not sure why I grabbed this one. It's an old Corningware dish that my mom had. So I'm just going to twist and turn the dish to be able to spread out the mixture into the bottom. And there we go, it's evenly distributed, so it can go now into the fridge for the next 30 minutes to an hour. All right, the mixture is set, and I'm just going to use this butter knife to start cutting our fruit snacks into strips, which will eventually become small pieces. So normally I would be cutting this into strips and then they would be popping out one at a time. As I mentioned, this is the first time I'm using this particular container. So I don't even know what to say other than the whole entire piece just peeled out, which worked out a little bit better. From there, I decided to use a pizza cutter. Just easy and simple is the way to go. So I just used my pizza cutter to cut the strips and then cut them into smaller pieces. I should also mention that you can also use small cookie cutters for this process. My kids are older, so they're really not worried about the shapes. These little squares are perfect for them. So here we go, we've got our homemade healthy fruit snacks. I also wanted to point out that I choose to keep my fruit snacks in the fridge just because we prefer to eat them cold. However, they do transport and keep nicely at room temperature as well, so it's really just a personal preference and completely up to you. Thanks for joining me today, and until next time, Ona.